What if Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen had married and ruled as king and queen of Westeros together? It is one of the greatest what-if questions in the entire world of Game of Thrones, because it rewrites the most tragic ending into something full of possibility, conflict, and uneasy peace. Imagine a world where the last two living Targaryens united the North and the South, fire and ice, love and duty. The world of Westeros would have changed forever, not just politically, but spiritually. Because when you think about it, the greatest tragedy of Game of Thrones was not that Daenerys died or that Jon was exiled. It was that the two never ruled together. If Jon and Daenerys had married after the defeat of the Night King, their union would have symbolized the long-awaited balance of two opposing forces. Daenerys represented fire, passion, and destiny. Jon represented ice, restraint, and duty. Together they were the song of ice and fire made flesh. Their love story was born in secrecy and tested by blood, but had it endured, they could have reshaped the Seven Kingdoms into something new. Both had followers who adored them, both had armies who would have died for them, and both carried the kind of legend that could unite even the most divided land. Politically, their marriage would have been brilliant. The North followed Jon because of his honor and leadership. The South followed Daenerys because of her charisma and divine claim. Together, they could have combined the loyalty of the North with the fear and awe of the South. The Unsullied and Dothraki would have stood beside Northern bannermen, creating the most powerful coalition Westeros had ever seen. No Lannister or Greyjoy rebellion could have survived that kind of unity. Even Sansa, ever cautious, might have accepted the rule if she saw her brother truly loved Daenerys, and if Daenerys had respected the independence of the North. Imagine their coronation, the Iron Throne rebuilt or perhaps melted away and reforged into something new, something symbolic of a changed age. Daenerys standing beside Jon, both crowned not as conquerors but as rulers who ended centuries of division. The people of Westeros, war-weary and broken, finally looking to the throne not with fear but with fragile hope. The sight of a Targaryen queen who freed slaves and a Stark king who died and returned for his people could have inspired a generation. Their reign might have begun as the first true age of peace since Aegon's conquest, but that peace would have been fragile. The very same things that made them powerful could also tear them apart. Daenerys' hunger for justice often burned hotter than mercy, while Jon's devotion to honor often clouded his pragmatism. Their philosophies of rule were opposites. She led through vision and fire, he led through humility and sacrifice. Together, they could have balanced one another, or they could have destroyed one another. Imagine council chambers filled with tension as Daenerys demanded swift punishment for treason, while Jon pleaded for forgiveness and patience. That kind of conflict between love and principle could have tested their marriage more than any war. Then there is the question of Jon's true heritage. If they had married before Daenerys learned that Jon was Aegon Targaryen, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne, perhaps she would have accepted it as fate. But knowing Daenerys' pride and her deep fear of losing everything she had built, the revelation could have poisoned their love. Even as king and queen, that truth would hang between them like a ghost. Every argument, every council decision, every whisper from lords and ladies might remind her that Jon's claim was stronger. She might have felt the same creeping paranoia that consumed her father and her brother Viserys. Jon, ever humble, would never have used his name against her, but sometimes power is not taken, it is forced upon you by those who see destiny in your blood. Still, it is tempting to believe that their love could have endured. After all, both of them understood loneliness better than anyone else. They were shaped by loss, by exile, by the crushing weight of expectations they never asked for. Daenerys once said she wanted to break the wheel, and Jon, in his quiet way, had already broken it in the North by uniting the living and the dead. Together, they might have built a new kind of monarchy, not one of hereditary right, but one of choice and merit. They could have redefined the throne, making it something more than just a seat of power, a symbol of shared purpose. Under their joint rule, Westeros might have finally healed. The kingdoms could have been granted more autonomy. Tyrion might have become the architect of a new council system, replacing tyranny with dialogue. Sansa could have ruled the North independently while still swearing loyalty to her brother and his queen. Arya might have served as a diplomat or explorer, extending Westerosi influence to new lands. The Unsullied could have become peacekeepers, and the Dothraki, once known for their destruction, could have turned to rebuilding the cities they once burned. Daenerys' vision of a better world would not have needed dragon fire to take root. Jon's presence would have tempered her extremes, grounding her fiery spirit with compassion, and Daenerys could have awakened the ambition in Jon that he constantly tried to deny, the sense that he was born for something greater. Together they might have found balance, like day and night sharing the same sky. Of course, not everyone would have accepted them. The old houses of Westeros, especially the Lannisters and the remnants of the Faith of the Seven, would have whispered of incest, heresy, and dragon blood. Rebellions might have formed in secret, pushing the pair to prove that their reign was not built on fear. Yet, for every rebel, there would have been hundreds who saw the two as symbols of hope. The common people who suffered through decades of war would have seen Daenerys and Jon not as conquerors, but as saviors who united the realm. And what of their dragons? With Jon's natural bond to Rhaegal and Daenerys' connection to Drogon, their reign might have ushered in a new dragon age. The skies of Westeros would once again echo with the wings of fire-breathing beasts, not as tools of terror, but as guardians of peace. The sight of two dragon riders ruling side by side would have made every rival think twice before plotting rebellion. Their children would have changed everything. The blood of ice and fire joined in a single line could have ended centuries of division between North and South. Their heirs would carry both the Stark honor and Targaryen power, uniting the realm's greatest houses forever. In this world, there would be no exile for Jon, no ashes for Daenerys, no throne melted into memory. Instead, the legacy of both would endure as a shared legend, a promise that love, even born in fire, could bring peace. Westeros would still face challenges, greed, ambition. Betrayal never vanish, but it would face them with hope rather than despair. So what if Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen had ruled together? It would not have been perfect. It might have been fragile, passionate, and full of danger, but it would have been theirs. It would have been a song of love trying to survive in a world that only knows war. In a story that often crushed every dream under the weight of reality. That union would have been the rarest thing of all, a dream that lived. And maybe, just maybe, that is what Westeros always needed.